Hi everybody, Matt and Danielle back with you on the final step of our Poland road trip. Today we have come to a place that saw some of the most evil people in history commit the worst crimes of humanity. We are at the museum and concentration camp of Auschwitz. And yeah, I understand a lot of you, when I put a preview up a few weeks ago, some of you said please don't film it. I have my reasons. You know full well, if you watch my videos, we will do everything completely by the book, and we may find as we go around it just becomes impossible to film. The reason I'm doing it is just in case you ever wanted to see here, we can bring it to you through the channel. I don't think you'll see us on the video again for this one. We're just going to film what we see. It's purely bringing you a piece of very dark history. The two sites we're visiting in this video are the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Auschwitz II-Birkenau. In a 5-year span, these locations saw the deaths of over 1 million innocent people. They were people who were forced into slave labour, or they faced immediate death from the Nazis. The Nazis believed themselves to be the superior race, and anything they deemed as inferior was to be exterminated. Concentration camps had first been used since 1933, when Hitler came into power in Germany. World War II broke out in 1939, when the Germans invaded Poland. During the occupation, they forced criminals, homosexuals, political opponents, and of course the Jewish people into concentration camps. At the end of World War I, which the Germans had lost, Hitler was just a soldier, and he believed that the Jewish people had stabbed the country in the back and been a cause of the loss. He built on this wave of mistrust to turn people against the Jewish community. By 1941, as it seemed Germany was likely to conquer Europe, Hitler demanded the final solution. All Jews, regardless of age, sex, or views, were to be killed. A complete extermination. Starvation, execution, mass murder. Auschwitz was the first camp founded in German-occupied Poland and the largest of all the prison camps. Prisons had become overcrowded due to the German takeover. Auschwitz came into operation in June 1940. Some buildings already existed here, as it was the site of a Polish army barracks. Prison labour saw these buildings extended and further buildings erected. This gate is what all prisoners walked through each morning to begin work. The translation: work will set you free. That work was hard labour. A building immediately through the gates was the location of the camp orchestra, who played the prisoners to work each morning. The orchestra were also prisoners. Personal property was taken from the Jewish people as they arrived at Auschwitz. Valuables, clothing, even toothbrushes and glasses were taken from them. These blocks contain evidence of the mass scale of the atrocities committed here. Outside Block 11 is what's known as the Black Wall or the Death Wall, where people who were condemned were brought out and shot. Over 5,000 people are said to have been executed against this wall. This area is known as Roll Call Square. These gallows stand outside the kitchens. Hanging was just another way of murder for the Nazis. Prisoners who had tried to escape were hung here, and up to a dozen could be hung in one go. In the square, prisoners had to line up for roll call every day and to be counted. These could last for hours and in any weather. The booth is where the SS officer in charge could shelter, rest, or maybe just randomly pick out a prisoner to flog or execute on the gallows. The commandant of Auschwitz, through nearly the entire 5 years, was Rudolf Höss, carrying out Hitler's orders of the mass extermination of Jews. He lived a life of luxury in a villa on the camp with his wife and 5 children. We are about to enter the gas chamber, but just outside the chamber is another gallows, and this is the site where the death by hanging was carried out on Rudolf Höss in 1947. Most of the gas chambers were destroyed by the Nazis before the end of the war, as they were evidence of the crimes that they had committed, but this one survives. Prisoners would have been brought in their hundreds, potentially under the idea they may be coming for a shower, but it was canisters of cyanide that were dropped into the chamber, killing all inside, though some would have suffered for potentially up to 20 minutes before perishing. And once done, the bodies were brought in here to the crematorium, reduced to ash. From here, the tour of Auschwitz I concludes, and we headed across the town to Birkenau, Auschwitz II. Built under orders from Heinrich Himmler, as Auschwitz could only hold 7,000 prisoners, a new camp was needed to house 30,000. And 2 miles from Auschwitz is Birkenau, the site of the second of 3 large concentration camps. This site became the largest concentration camp, as well as the largest centre of extermination of the Jewish people. Up to 500,000 Jews have been said to have been brought here to die. Crowded trains, often travelling for days, carried the Jewish people to destruction arriving through the entrance gate to a ramp where selection by the Nazi officers took place. Men and women and children were separated. The women and children and those unable to work or too old were likely immediately sent for execution. Sometimes the wagons carrying the prisoners had been unopened for days, and prisoners died on them whilst being transported due to the conditions. These are the ruins of gas chambers and crematoriums, destroyed by the Germans themselves as they tried to cover up what atrocities they had committed. The large underground chambers that we can see here are where the prisoners would have been led down with the intention of possibly having a shower, but again, cyanide capsules were likely what were dropped in on them from above, killing hundreds at once, who were then taken into these buildings here, the crematorium, and they were reduced to ash and poured into lakes on site. When the process of the killings sped up and the crematorium couldn't keep up with the burning, the bodies were just placed outside and set on fire. The photos of these mass murders were taken by those on the camp, and they were smuggled out of camp with the help of the Polish resistance movement, and these informed the outside world of the crimes being committed in Auschwitz. Also on site are the barracks where the prisoners were kept. 700 people would have been crammed into brick barracks, 400 in wooden ones. The overcrowding and sanitation issues saw plagues of rats and lice and infectious diseases constantly break out. With no open windows, the places would be freezing in winter and boiling in summer. At the end of 1944, the Nazis started to destroy evidence of their crimes at Auschwitz. In their final week of occupation, they blew up the gas chambers and storehouses full of property, as well as burning prisoners' files and deportation lists. The decision was made to leave Auschwitz and march those prisoners healthy enough to other camps. 56,000 prisoners were forced into that march, and wearing nothing more than just thin cotton pyjamas. Unsurprisingly, with it being winter, 9,000 were said to die on that march. On January 27th, 1945, the Soviet Red Army arrived by circumstance at Auschwitz. Here they found 7,000 people left behind to die, the ones who had been deemed unfit to go on the death march due to injury or illness. The shocking scale of the Nazi crimes were uncovered for the world to see. By May 1945, Germany surrendered and the war was over. January 27th is Holocaust Memorial Day, a day dedicated to the millions of Jews and other people who were murdered by the Nazis in the war. January 2025 was the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. World leaders and survivors returned to the concentration camp. The survivors likely to have been just children themselves, yet the memories still remain decades later. At the start of this video, I said I had my reasons for filming this, and in this we hope to honour and remember the victims of Auschwitz. This was a place of suffering and death, and the victims here should not be forgotten, and their stories can still be told. The story of Auschwitz is a reminder to the world how dangerous unchecked power is, and the need for the world to speak out against injustice, intolerance, and hatred. Okay guys, there we go. That is our wander around Auschwitz, and I hope you've been okay watching this one. It's probably the most difficult thing we've ever filmed. I hope we've done it respectfully, that I said I would do it. You won't have seen us on there. All I want to do is bring you a bit of the history of what happened here and what it looked like, just in case you never get a chance to come and see it yourself. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Nothing else to say. Any thoughts?
I think we just have to sit with you further.
Yeah, I think we're about to process, definitely. Alright, take care, and that concludes our Poland road trip. Yeah, quite a few difficult ones this time, but we'll be back on the road trips in May. All will be revealed soon. So from Danny and I, take care.